Metal Band's Chronicles. Happy Friday the 13th here on this cold December, not quite winter day. As you all know, winter starts next week. Anyways, we're not going to get into a talk about winter. We're going to talk about the third studio album by Pantera, entitled I Am the Night, released on August 16th, 1985, on Metal Magic Records, independently released, produced by Diamond Vinny's dad again, Jerry Abbott, country producer, country musician himself, country music singer. But anyways, we're not going to waste a lot of time. You get the same lineup. You get Diamond Darrell on guitars. You get Vinnie Paul on drums. You get Rex Rocker on bass. And you get Terrence Lee on vocals, which would be the last album featuring Terrence Lee. Then, what they would go and get Phil Anselmo and go in a much heavier, much more aggressive, much more groove-oriented direction. But I must say, on this album, you can definitely tell between Metal Magic and Projects in the Jungle, right, that they're already going in a heavier direction with each album, because to me, this album, is more of an American power metal type of album compared to a glam metal album, or hair metal album, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So yes, well, we're going to get right into the review, So we begin with Hot and Heavy. Easily the worst song probably on this album. Right away, it sounds like it could have been on Projects in the Jungle, man. It's got some of the corniest fucking lyrics. Like, take a look at my ice cream cone, baby. What the fuck is that? Just very cringe-worthy lyrics. I don't like it. Like, the music's cool in it. It has, like, a Judas Priest vibe to it. But them lyrics, man, some of the worst lyrics, But I must say, as bad as the lyrics are, Dimebag does shred one hell of a guitar solo in it, So it's not, like, terrible on a musician level, but when it comes to the lyrics, it's just very annoying. Because they're so juvenile and so bad, I Am the Night is the next track. Alright, now this is where you can tell, Pantera's going in a much heavier direction, man. You can tell that, they're not fucking around no more. And yes, this track is very heavy, it's very aggressive, for what it is, No, it's not as heavy as something off of Cowboys from Hell or Vulgar Display of Power or any album like that. But it's got a speed metal vibe to it. Some of the fastest, most technical guitar solos Diamond Darrell has done yet. And great double bass drumming by Vinnie Paul, Yeah, great track. Then we move on to another track that's pushing that heavier boundary. Because the beginning has like a chuggy riff, and I'm talking about track 3 here, Onwards We Rock. Not a bad track at all. With a title like that, you'd think glam metal, but this track's pretty freaking heavy too, So you can tell right away, like I said, definitely not as heavy as what would come, but compared to the first two albums, this is definitely a step up in the heavy notch, But Onward We Rock, good track. Now, one thing I'm going to note real quick is that Terrence Lee, his vocals don't fit this more American power metal direction they're going in. Like, to me, Terrence Lee is more of a hair metal type of vocalist. Like, he tries, don't get me wrong. Like, on I Am the Night, he's trying his best to do a Rob Halford or Udio Dirkschneider. And to me, it just doesn't quite work, I mean, it's not like terrible, but it would have sounded better if they would have had Phil Anselmo doing it, because Phil just sounded way better when he did the high notes, But yeah. Okay, so then we got a short little guitar instrumental. Dime goes to the movies. Or Daryl goes to the movies, whatever it means. But it's, it's pronunciated, DGTTM. I'll tell you what, man, I really love Dime's guitar playing on this instrumental, man. This has to be one of my favorite instrumentals by Dimebag Darrell. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. In fact, you know what? We're going to take a little intermission and have a listen to it. And we will be right back. Here, go for it. Alrighty, we are back here on Metal Ben's Chronicles after listening to that incredible instrumental, man. Some of Dimebag Darrell's best guitar work, in my opinion. I just love that instrumental. Yes, it's definitely very 80s sounding, but you know what? I really like it. On Projects in the Jungle, you had Blue Light Turns Red, where he's just shredding. This one, it's a little more melodic, but it's really, really good. And it's got a dark vibe to it. So now we're up to Daughters of the Queen, which I think it's a pretty good song too. Now this track, as opposed to the last album where it sounded more like Def Leppard, you can tell they're still kind of wearing their influences on their sleeve. I don't know, maybe they were influenced by Rat at the time, but this song really sounds like it could be a Rat song. Easily. Could definitely be a Rat song. I mean, it really does sound like a leftover Rat track, from Out of the Cellar, the EP, Invasion of Your Privacy, Dancing Undercover, whatever, one of those albums. Alright, down below, another speed metal number. However, I think this track was done better on power metal. Only because Phil Anselmo does the vocals justice on the power metal version. I know we shouldn't be talking about that version. Let's talk about the Terrence Lee version. Yeah, man, again, he's trying to sing really high, and it just doesn't come off good, in my opinion, but it's still a pretty darn good speed metal track. Come On Eyes. Okay, let's talk about Come On Eyes. Again, this is another track that really sounds like a Rat left over. It does. It sounds like a Rat song. Terrence Lee does a good Steve Pearcy impersonation on this track. It is what it is. It's not a bad track. but then again, I do like Rat. Yeah, Come On Eyes is alright. Okay, so then we get to Right on the Edge. Now, this track right here, man, it really sounds like an Accept song. Like, to me, Terrence Lee is trying his best to do an Udio Dirk Snyder impersonation when he sings in certain parts, especially on the chorus of Right on the Edge. You know, it has like an Accept restless and wild, balls to the wall type of feel to it. You know, I think it's a pretty decent track, you know. Then we get to another track that's probably the heaviest track on this album. Yes, I'm talking about Valhalla. You can hear aspects of thrash metal in this track, you know. But again, I think the vocals just sound a bit off. Like if Phil Anselmo would have been in the band at this point and sang on this album, I think this album would be much better, to be honest. And this track, Valhalla, would really be kick-ass. Now, this track is probably my favorite off this album. It's very fast. It's really aggressive. Double bass out the wazoo. You can hear some thrash metal riffs in this track. I think it's a really good track, and Dimebag Darrell is shredding away, you know. And anyway, speaking of Valhalla, we're going to have a listen to it right now.
There is a place where every man who falls in battle can live again.
factor of that speed metal assault. Like I said, if you listen to it, you can hear glimpses of thrash metal in this track. A little bit of Metal Church, a band like that, And at the end, you get a little bit of like a Metallica type of riff, I think it's a really good track on this album. Like I said, it's probably my favorite. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go on record and say it probably is my favorite, Between that and Onward We Rock and I Am the Night, those three tracks just absolutely smoke. Okay, then we get to the final track here, Forever Tonight. Man, this track's just absolutely forgettable. Like, the instrumentation's better than on the last album with, Taking My Life. So it's technically a little bit better of a ballad, but even back then, the Pantera ballads were really hair metal-y, really cheesy. This one's just really weird. It's kind of dark sounding, don't get me wrong. It has a dark vibe to it, but it's just not good, And that's pretty much all I gotta say, Besides the fact that I don't think the vocals really fit this album, and if Phil would have been in the band, this would have been a much better album. I Am the Night is actually a pretty darn good listen. If you go back and listen to it. Besides Hot and Heavy, track 1 and track 10 are the worst tracks on here. But the rest of the album, like 2 to 9, man, those tracks are awesome. But anyways, that's my review of the 1985 album, I Am the Night, and of course afterwards Pantera would take a 3-year hiatus and come back with a new vocalist and a 4th album, and a even more of a heavier direction. But until next time, I rank this album, by the way. I like this album. I like it better than Projects in the Jungle. I do like it. I like it a little better than Metal Magic. I would give this album like an 8 out of 10. That's my score, 8 out of 10. Only 2 tracks drag it down. Alright, keep it metal!